Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. Lots of discussions over the last few days about the new CDL schedule and format for the upcoming season. Lots of online qualifiers, relatively few matches on a week-per-week basis, with many teams just playing one game on each specific weekends. Shotzzy frustrated about the idea that you could have 6 days of great practice, play one game at the weekends, lose it, and everyone says you're terrible, especially if you were to lose to a not especially good team. The team that he comes up with to talk about this is Boston. Somewhat surprising given there's arguably worst teams in the league. Is this just a bit of a mistake by Shotzzy, or does he actually believe that Boston are significantly worse than people might expect them to be for the upcoming season? Very much enjoy your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. First of all, I saw some discussion going around about the Los Angeles Guerrillas roster. There's been some rumors that they have at least talked to somebody and have some idea what's going on at this point. I did see this that Drazah responded to from Optimum here, kind of saying, look, yo boys, if we aren't going to do a roster, like, you know, get me in. I'll be their head coach, the GM, the main AR. I do wonder what they'll do, because you guys remember that apparently Vegas talked to Clay and said, hey Clay, can you be our main AR but also be our like partnerships guy? And I don't know if that was exactly what they said or implied, but that's kind of how it was talked about and perceived by the community online. What they might have more so meant is kind of like, look, Clay, if you bring us sponsorships, if you bring us partnerships, you can have 50% of that revenue and we'll take the rest, which is a pretty reasonable deal to be fair. But, you know, they were trying to get Clay to do other roles in the organization in addition to being, you know, the figurehead, the talisman, and their main AR, which is not ideal. I mean, really, you want somebody else to be doing that role, but when money's tight, this is how things go. So I wonder whether, you know, are they going to have a coach? Are they going to have a GM, this Guerrillas team? Assuming they do field the roster, I think contractually they are mandated to have 4 players and a sub, and the sub will probably be the coach, if there is going to be a coach, I don't know. But yeah, I guess we'll see whether they have their main AR or whoever they sign do multiple roles within the organization, if they ever confirm what they're doing at any point in the near future. This as well from Adamu. We saw him discussing over the last few days the future of the Call of Duty League and the Overwatch League, and there were some rumors yesterday from Jacob Wolf, of course a very prominent esports reporter, on what's going to happen there. The fact that the Overwatch League teams are having discussions with Activision to call it a day on the Overwatch League, bring back some sort of open circuit model. And look, I don't know what AI, maybe this is Midjourney or something, to come up with this picture. It's pretty funny. I guess he's like getting at the Mad Lions thing, because that's also what they own. So I was a bit confused why this image was posted with it here, but I guess that's what he's getting at. And then he went on to say the Saudis are taking over Overwatch Esports, confirmed, which is an interesting tweet to make, given this comes just a day after we heard the discussion that ESL, FaZe Group, which are owned by the Saudis, are going to be effectively operating the Overwatch League going forwards, which I guess does correlate to taking over Overwatch Esports. But if he says this is confirmed, which is, it's interesting if these are discussions happening behind the scenes that he would say this, but still, the rumor is that this is basically true, and ESL will be running the, you know, the league for the Overwatch going forwards, the open circuit system. Now, okay, does that mean that the World Championship for Overwatch is now going to be in Riyadh at, let's say, the Esports World Cup that they're kind of rebranding Gamers 8 to in Saudi Arabia in the near future? Possibly, yes. I mean, I think that will be the intention, is that, you know, if the Saudis own ESL, the esports that ESL operate, I'm sure the intention will be to get those esports moving more and more to Saudi Arabia. And if this is happening to Overwatch, it's probably not going to be too long until this happens to Call of Duty as well. And at the end of the day, the teams are struggling for money, and where's the money coming from right now in esports? I don't need to answer that question. So quite fascinating really to think what the future of this might be, because if this is happening to Overwatch League now, going into 2024, you might well expect that it could happen to the Call of Duty League going into 2025. Now, I also wonder who these discussions are taking place with. Are the owners talking to Activision Blizzard, who are, you know, a lot of those people may no longer be in those jobs very soon if, you know, because Microsoft are coming in, Activision effectively will like cease to exist, you know what I mean? And a lot of the people involved and the stakeholders might be different people in a few months. So tough to say exactly who the people that the Overwatch League owners are negotiating with are those going to be the same people that the CDL owners will negotiate with? And a lot of those people are the same people in a very short period of time, or will Microsoft change the handover? And also, what does it mean for aBeZy? Like, you know, this guy, honestly, you got to respect it. This guy's 42, jacked out of his mind, and he's talking here about, you know, improving every day. But make no mistake, I didn't forget. Enjoy your comfort. Just remember, it's never over. So for all this guy's done for esports on the MLG days and Esports Engine, now, you know, Esports Engine controversially sold to the Saudis. I don't know what aBeZy's involvement in that was. There's been some rumors that he maybe wasn't so happy about that, but I guess we'll see. Regardless, he wants to get back involved in esports production, I imagine, and probably will intend to start up his company at some point. If there's a non-compete that he has to ride down, then he'll probably do it, but at that point, he'll look to be back in the game. Whether that'll be too late, but as he says, you know, just remember it's never over. Enjoy your comfort, and he's going to come back with a vengeance when the time comes. This as well, I saw that EasyMac discussing this, and Ben was talking about this as well, just why it's so expensive to host esports events. Like, when they did a league, like a World War II Black Ops 4 style league, you have to hire that venue for, you know, even you own the venue, but whatever, for a long period of time. And the longer you hire events for, or venues for, the cheaper it becomes on a day-by-day basis. The issue is when you're doing Call of Duty events, and the reason why it becomes so expensive for the teams to host these is, well, for various reasons, but mainly because you're paying a premium because you have to rent everything. In the event industry, the margins are pretty tight anyway. Short-term rentals are therefore more expensive. Tons of staff, overtime hours. When you do, like, let's say a sports stadium music venue for more days, the majority of the equipment is already there. So, and obviously esports is pretty equipment intensive. And it's not like we have an insanely huge esports and competitive Call of Duty that they can charge huge money for the tickets. And even if they are making pretty good money from the concessions and the drinks, the vendor's going to take a big cut of that. So, you know, Ben basically says, yeah, this is kind of on point as to why it's expensive to host these events. So this is just one of the other reasons why that Saudi money is going to look very attractive to many of these esports teams, and I'm sure to the players. So the OpTic podcast came out the other day. They discussed quite a lot, especially with regard to the format, but Shotzzy had a few interesting words to say, and I think the reason why he might have mentioned Boston is because just a couple of minutes before, they were talking about the Boston Major and the fact that it was problematic for a couple of reasons. New York, you guys remember, might not even have got there. Well, they didn't get there until the very last minute. They almost missed their matches. And Scump actually in the OpTic guys, I remember this because I turned up to the event and the flank had a really nice setup, and Scump hadn't retired that long before, and they'd made the call that they were gonna, you know, fly to Boston and do the do the setup from there, do the watch party. Roger was there, I think Matt was there, like Matty Craig. They'd made it. They were doing the equipment setup and stuff like that, but they didn't have all the equipment. And then, because it was a massive storm going on across the states, there were flights, all sorts of flights cancelled from Texas. The OpTic guys like Scump and Hex, they couldn't even make it out to Boston, so they had to abort mission and not even go in the ends because it was just, you know, so cold at that time of the year, especially flights to Boston were causing serious issues. So I don't know whether that's why, because that was in back of Shotzi's mind, they just discussed Boston, why that was, you know, the team that Shotzzy mentioned when he went on to discuss the format and said that, yeah, you don't want to grind all week and do really well to lose to a terrible team like Boston is kind of what he implies.
I think that having it, look, Boston, I love Boston. I've been to Boston several times. One of them was PAX East, and it was like in June, July, August, something like that. And it was one of the best cities to parties in. There is many bars. It's just like a fun place to be. But in January, I'm from Chicago. I know what January is like on the East Coast, man.
That shit cold, man.
Horrible. Colder than a colder, man. So,
and the one thing I will say is that just going from just from past years, we literally tried to do Boston last year, and one of the teams almost didn't make it. Why the f are we doing it at the same time? Well, New York almost didn't make it to the event, and then they got dead last.
That was crazy. That was crazy.
And we didn't even make it to the event.
We didn't. We stayed here.
Our production equipment didn't make it to the event. We couldn't even go. Yeah. So, like, it's risky business.
Risky business.
Qualifiers are long.
Dude, yeah, this is so crazy.
Am I reading that right?
Because why isn't champs in August, right? Because if they're skipping months.
Bro, we literally play, like, there's teams that go into a weekend, like, practicing Monday all the way through Saturday and play one match.
Qualify.
Listen, bro, you could have six godlike days and have one bad match on Sunday, and everyone's cooking your shit.
That's it.
One bad match, and like you get 3-0 by Boston. Actually, why am I saying Boston? You get 3-0 by FaZe. Let's go with a good team. You get 3-0 by FaZe.
You're digging yourself deeper. Let's go with a good team. Sorry, Boston.
Well, they're considering going.
Shitters. Like, you know,
All right, y'all know what I mean. Y'all know what I mean. You get 3-0, and then everyone's like, "Holy, these guys are dog shit." You know what I'm saying?
He's like, if I'm doing my months correctly.
Shotzzy's brain, the way it works, is just great. It's just comedy, honestly. The way that he started this off by talking about, you know, he said Boston, then he was like, oh, I maybe shouldn't have said that. Let me say a good team like FaZe. Scum's response is pretty funny as well. But I do wonder, like, you know, what does he think about this Boston team? Because on paper, people tend to rate this Boston team quite highly. But I've seen lots of mixed opinions lately. The more I think about these teams, the more I have my own, you know, mixed opinions and concerns about how good they'll be. I have no real concerns about OpTic. I mean, Toronto, like OpTic, FaZe, they should all be really good. Subliners, I think, also should be really, really good. But, you know, there's obviously going to be some questions there about the Simp for Priestahh thing after winning the World Championship. Those four that, you know, they should be top 4 at a lot of different events. Outside of that, okay, we think we know what Ravens are doing now. They have some upside. Vegas have some upside, maybe slightly less so. Surge, I'm not convinced by. Minnesota, I'm not personally convinced by. Heretics, I'm not really that convinced by. So it's kind of left Boston and Thieves being the top 5, top 6 teams in that ballpark, and that's kind of where I'd still consider them to be. I think Thieves have some risk. I do really like the Boston team, but I think that it might take some time, you know. Like Priestahh and Slasher over here, they have both made a grand finals of an event for like every year for the last several years. So you'd have to say that Boston are going to find themselves in a good position to maybe do that again. Snoopy looked good at Champs, so, you know, he needs to develop. Capsidal is a good player as well. So, I don't know. The more I look at the Boston team compared to the rest, the more I actually kind of like it. I don't know if it's going to work right off the rip. I think it's going to take some time. But, you know, I think if you get 3-0'd by Boston next year in like April, May, I don't think that's going to be, you know, considered to be that bad. I would expect they'll be considered at that time a pretty good team. The teams that you don't want to get 3-0'd by are some other squads. And I thought, honestly, he was going to mention Miami just because Florida, right, have been the nemesis of OpTic for the last several years and have always seemed to get the better of them. Now Florida no longer exist, but it's now Miami Heretics, which is kind of the same deal. So, you know, that's a team that if you grind all the week and you dominate kids and you get 3-0'd by Heretics on the weekends, that's probably not going to look so good and you're going to get clowned on an TacticalRab video. But I think maybe the bigger point is that this is just an unfortunate reality of the format that, especially on the qualifier set with 7 matches over 5 weekends, that means that on 2 weekends you play twice, on 3 weekends you play once. Like OpTic will play once a weekends for, you know, 3 weekends out of 5, which does mean that, you know, you grind all the time to play one series and it might not go so well, and, you know, you get no warm-up, you know, no back-to-back series, anything. Okay, you can warm up, but it's not quite the same as it would be in an event situation. So, yeah, not ideal, but that's how league matches go. That's how the CDL have designed it. Are Boston going to save up that clip and get ready for an opportune moment of the new season to drop that one when it might be necessary? I'm sure that the Boston social media guys have that one saved up for when the time might arise. But very much enjoyed to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.